Hey guys, Rosalie here. Welcome back to the Pregnant Christian Environmentalist podcast. I am refreshed and on cloud nine right now because I just had the best trip I've had, I feel like in 7 years. I'm not even kidding. It was so freaking fun. So Riley and I went to Mexico, to be specific, Zihuatanejo and La Saladita, Mexico, for a wedding. And we went to Utah for another wedding, and then Portland to see my friend, and back home. I thought it'd be really fun to tell you guys a bit about the trip and some things that I thought I should have packed and things that I am really glad I did pack that I've learned over the years as far as just for well-being, for sustainability, all of the above. So let's get straight into that, and then I'll talk about the trip. Also very excited to have a special guest. Of course, I have some things to share that I learned in the last few weeks. Yes, I'm on week 17 of pregnancy. So yes, skipped a few weeks here because of traveling and being a little bit busy, but honestly didn't learn a ton of the details because I've been busy, but still learned some really fun things. So we'll get to that as well. So let's start with the packing. I am so glad Riley and I packed grapefruit seed extract. Now that's really good for preventing parasites. You can just have a few drops of it before you eat. I was a little weary. We tried researching online, is this okay while pregnant? I was a little weary because we didn't find any studies or basically any information on it. So I was kind of limited on that. But to be honest, I wasn't super careful about not eating certain things other than the fish. I did have some raw fish when we were at nicer restaurants. Normally when I travel, I'm not at nice restaurants. I like to eat street food and stuff, but because we were with family and it was a family wedding, we did eat at some good restaurants, and that's when I really splurged on really good raw fish. You might be thinking I'm crazy, but it was like top reviews. Dude, the food in Mexico, I could go off right now. But for some of the maybe more, I don't know, sketchy meals, obviously eating everything cooked, in those scenarios, I had some grapefruit seed extract, but just a little bit. Again, that kills parasites. I also am so glad I brought my mineral drops. So, if you don't know, I am very adamant about drinking alive water, is what some people call it. The best water to drink in the US, because our water treatment centers mostly are terrible. There are very few exceptions. So the best way to drink water here is to do RO and then re-add minerals. It's so sad that we have to do that. Places in Europe and all around the world do not have to do that. They drink alive water that is clean. But our water treatment centers add chlorine and they don't take all the toxins out. They're just horrible. Even like the pipe systems are corroded and gross. And at least for where I live, I need that RO system, and then I need to add the mineral drops. If you drink water without minerals in it, it actually is such a non-balanced equation of a molecule. I don't know. I hope you're not a scientist listening to this. But what I have learned and felt in my body is it actually demineralizes. That water clings to minerals. And if there's none in that, which after ROing your water, there's no minerals left, it will actually pull the minerals from your body and then you pee them out. So it is really key to have minerals in your water. Honestly, the top-notch water you could have. My sister lives in Utah and she goes to this mountain spring dispenser thing, and that's so cool and I'm really jealous, but we don't have that. Also, Mountain Valley bottled water is really good water, but it's bottled water. It comes in glass, so it's fine, but it's not good for the environment. So I brought my mineral drops. I buy the brand Trace. That's the most popular one. And because we were staying in a nicer place, they had water filters. And so it was totally safe to drink that water, but I knew it was probably dead water because they were such strong filters. So I was able to re-add those minerals, where at home I have an AquaTrue machine and it does that for me. So glad I brought that. I never felt dehydrated or demineralized. I brought my reusable cutlery, as I always do, and not only is this good for the planet, so you don't have to take that plastic single-use cutlery at restaurants or whatever takeout places, but it really comes in handy. Sometimes you're taking food to go and you've got your cutlery in your bag. It hardly takes up space in the bag. Normally I travel with my reusable glass coffee cup, but because we were going to Utah in the snow after Mexico, I was kind of freaking out on packing space. Didn't bring it, and I really regretted it. Again, not only did I use so many plastic to-go coffee cups, I have my reusable straw, but hello, that entire cup and lid is plastic. Of course, that really bummed me out. Also, side note, if you don't know this yet, if you order a hot drink instead or hot coffee, paper cups are lined with plastic. Why do you think that liquid doesn't soak through the bottom? So even if you're getting a hot drink, you're getting plastic. So I was really missing my cup. On top of that, so now there's a benefit of your health, the planet, but also convenience. Sometimes we were at the casita that we stayed at. This was so fun, but breakfast was included there. And sometimes I wanted to take my drink to go, but they only had glasses there. So I wasn't obviously going to steal their glass when we were heading out the door. And I would have really loved to have my reusable cup. They had coffee there, and I was not able to take it to go because I didn't have my cup. I also packed clothes from my clothing rental website, which was really fun. I am a girl, and I like to pack fun new outfits when I travel. I, growing up, did this. My mom would take me shopping before we would go on a trip. She thought it was fun. I thought it was fun. We'd get new swimsuits and outfits. Obviously, not good for the planet. This was pre-environmentalist us, and we didn't know any better. But I have seen that is very normal to do. All the girls talk about shopping before their trip, and not gonna lie, I actually do feel that thrill when you get on a trip and you get to wear something new. So sometimes I go thrifting before trips, and that's really fun. But now that I have a clothing rental website, rosaliescloset.com, that fulfills that same fun little bit of adrenaline wearing fun outfits that are or they feel new. And so I was able to order some stuff from that, and that was really fun to dress up every day and wear more colors than I normally do and more, I don't know, tropical things. I did bring a filter straw, but didn't end up needing it because we always just used that filtered water. Super glad I brought my charcoal pills. I really don't know how much truth there is to this, but I heard once if you eat seed oils, you should take charcoal pills after. It helps absorb the toxins. Honestly, I have a really hard time believing that, but you can definitely tell the difference taking charcoal pills when you have a stomach ache or ate something crappy, and it makes you feel so much better. So it's doing something in there. I assume it's probably absorbing good stuff too. Like, how would it know the difference? So I kind of just took it after a really junky meal where I thought there's no nutrients to lose. This was just delicious and junky. We brought our own sunscreen and bug spray, which I know some of you listening might think, wow, she is so extra, but some of you agree with me that you don't want to be spraying on stuff with ingredients in it that are bad for you, and it is so hard for me to find bug spray without fragrance and DEET and all the chemicals. So I just bring my own, then I don't have to worry about that. Of course, we got to the casita, they had sunscreen and bug spray there, and it had ingredients in them that I would not want to put on my skin. Something I really regret not bringing actually any of, and we should have, is bars, some clean snacks. It actually got to a point, especially because we were in a group and we were kind of doing everything together, we didn't have the freedom to just go grab food whenever. It got to the point where I got so hungry once that I ate this Nutella sandwich, and I haven't had Nutella in years. I hate how much of like an LA health girl I sound right now, but honestly, I just don't want to eat Nutella. It's straight palm oil. It's so bad for you. And I got that desperate. I was starving, and I thought, why the heck did I not bring bars and snacks for situations like this? So really wish I did. And a little trick I've learned over the years is to pack things like that you will not be taking home with you, to have space at the end of the trip for souvenirs, thrifting, stuff like that. So next time I'm not going to forget to pack healthy snacks, but my little trick is to bring gifts for who we're staying with, and if I am going to family or not family, I bring clothes that I'm actually fine with leaving behind. You guys probably can assume that I do go thrifting a lot, so I do have some rotation in my closet. The most sustainable queens out there probably just have their capsule wardrobe and it stays the same for 10 years. That's not me. I love thrifting, sharing clothes with others, upcycling, and yada yada. There's always some items in my closet that I can definitely take on a trip and leave where I'm going, so I could leave it at a thrift store, but normally I'm just visiting friends and family and I give cute clothes to them. It's just really fun. And then again, bringing gifts, clothes, food, you have room at the end of your trip to pack stuff you acquire on the trip. I do love thrifting wherever I go. It's the best way to get souvenirs in a eco-friendly way. I also have a coffee subscription at home. Lately, I've been getting the decaf from them. Where I live is so hard to find sustainable organic coffee, which might surprise you, but I have such a hard time finding it. So I actually have to subscribe to, I get Forecast Coffee. I'm pretty sure they're the most sustainable organic coffee in the world. They have every certification that makes them amazing. Even their decaf is Swiss water decaf, which is really important because if you get normal decaf, they use this chemical solvent to absorb the caffeine out of it, and it does stay in the coffee. So, well, actually, Cafe Ibis from Utah might be the most sustainable coffee I've ever seen. But one of those, Forecast does subscriptions, so when we're going on a trip, I bring my coffee with me so we don't have too much when we come home. A lifesaver lately that I had to look up, my back was hurting so much from sleeping, and I looked up why, and apparently it helps to put a pillow between your knees. Maybe my belly, it is showing a little bit now. It's getting a little bit bigger. Things are shifting in the pelvic area. Apparently my knees need to be separated and I need to be sleeping on my side. And no, I have not bought one of those pregnancy pillows yet. I feel like that's not necessary. Talked to a few people about that and they said it helps but isn't necessary, and everyone's different. So we'll see, but for now, sleeping with a pillow between my knees is actually a lifesaver. And luckily at the 4 or 5 places we stayed on this trip, they always had extra pillows, but if they didn't, that would have been kind of a disaster. I would have had to roll up a sweatshirt or something and put it between my knees, so maybe that would be on my packing list if I had to go on another trip. I'm still trying to figure out why this was the best trip I've had in a really long time. I don't even know if Riley thinks that, but I know he had such a good time. One, I think we're just so excited to be parents that we just kind of are always stoked on life right now. We're more in love right now, so that always makes a trip more fun. I hate to admit this about myself. Actually, I've told you guys this a million times on this podcast alone, but I am very frugal. So being in a place where everything is cheaper, I don't feel bad balling out and just simply being on vacation, where normally that's kind of hard for me to just spend away. The food was so incredible. And we got to surf our hearts out, which honestly, a trip where I get to surf or at least do something active and outdoors, those are my best trips. When we went to our second wedding in Utah, I did try to snowboard. We got to have some free tickets and I was so adamant about going. I know that it's dangerous to snowboard while pregnant, so I said, I'm used to kind of blues status. I'm not a pro, but I'm pretty comfortable, good at going fast downhill. So I'll just stick to the greens, be extra careful. That was not that much fun because I was so nervous. It could be really bad for baby if I fell on my stomach. So found out quick that snowboarding when you're extremely nervous and have to not go down fun, steeper hills that you're used to is not that fun. But I did find in the past few years that when I have to travel and I do make sure I get some activity during the day, which in the past I've traveled, usually when I visit family, it's cold or wintry, we have to stay indoors, we don't do anything active. I really get into a funk. It's actually really bad. Makes me really tired. My body just isn't used to that. So just sticking to hobbies, workout routines, or doing fun outdoor stuff when I travel makes the trip amazing. I'm actually really not a gym person, and a few years ago I did go to a wintry area and I actually went to the gym every day. I hated it. I had to kick myself to the gym, but it made the trip really good. Where past similar trips, this is like a family tradition trip, I would be groggy and grouchy and it was not as good. So on top of all these things, I can't deny the fact that we were with family that were just blessing the heck out of us. Riley's family honestly paid for a lot of things in Mexico and blessed us so much. Also, just planning the itinerary, that was so fun. So we didn't have to plan and think, what are we doing tomorrow? It just made it amazing. So maybe, that's why this was the best trip ever, but I just wanted to say some of the tips I've learned from past trips. I did also note I felt just so close to God on this trip, and I think it's pretty obvious why. I have just been so go, go, go that I have not been having my long, consistent morning quiet times. I have not been stopping to reflect on my Sabbath days. I've just been so extremely busy. And so finally getting some free time and slow mornings, able to pray, able to meditate, getting to spend some time reading the Bible and journaling, it was just so nice to get back on it with my relationship with God. It really reminded me that I need to slow down back home and make sure I don't lose sight of what's important. So my debate is now, do we need a baby moon? A lot of people say it like it's so normal, like it's so easy to fit into the schedule and into the budget. In my mind, it does not feel easy, and I don't know when or how we would do it, but not gonna lie, such a good trip that I feel baby moon fulfilled now. I really don't feel like we need one. Riley and I don't really budget for solo trips, and so I can see now why a solo him and I trip would be really bonding and really good before baby. But we did get 2 days alone. I know that's short, but it was so wonderful. Also, just the traveling in between. We had some really good alone time, and I think as long as we're intentional before baby comes to go on some dates and have some date days back home, it's not super necessary to go somewhere. We were dreaming of a trip to Bali, and that didn't happen. We thought maybe we'll still go, and then I remembered I'd have a giant belly, and the whole reason to go is to surf. And I thought, honestly, going with a little tiny infant sounds amazing. We just switch off with the baby and relax and nap, sit on the beach, go surf. That sounds like the most perfect postpartum activity to me. I kind of got inspired with that idea by somebody who actually did that. I thought, hell yeah. But I think I should survey some more moms, because I imagine some of them thinking, maybe listening to this and saying, yeah, good luck with that, sister. Going on a trip right after having a baby, that's not gonna happen. In the end, just a little sustainability plug. I really do keep in mind traveling by plane is a privilege, and it's also horrific for the planet. Do I still do it? Of course. I have family in faraway places and a lot of good friends. Traveling by plane has obviously just become a necessary evil, but my life mantra is kind of to lead a life you don't need a vacation from. And one way I've done that is by having weekly Sabbath days. That's not something that really anyone practices anymore, except I believe Jewish people, and I think it is a beautiful, beautiful tradition. Literally, God commanded us to do it, and for some reason we've just thrown it out the window. I know there's some theological reasons why, but they actually are just misinterpretations of Jesus's teachings. He totally loved Sabbath day. It's just that sometimes people made it a religious thing, made it a way to judge others, basically used it for the wrong reason. But after reading some books by John Mark Comer, he's an author, I think I read Garden City and The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and after just hearing some other opinions, I am a Sabbather now, and I have not been doing that since I've been pregnant. I've been saying I'm too busy for that, but I've been feeling the repercussions. Having one full day off a week where you do what you gotta do to feel rested and restored is a game changer, and it prevents burnout, and that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Yes, I used to get the travel bug. Yes, after a few months, I used to feel like life was mundane and too repetitive and I needed to go somewhere. Ever since I started Sabbathing, that stopped. I just really like to talk about this because social media, especially to the newer generations, has put this pressure on people that you're not cool or unique or fun if you don't travel. And I think that is absolutely not true. Obviously, some people are meant to. Some people maybe even get to do that for their job. But I honestly only think it's worth it when you go to some place for a longer amount of time, meet locals, give back in some sort of way. Otherwise, you're really just a tourist, and I don't know, you're not really learning that much or becoming a better person or helping anybody. Yes, Riley and I live in a really beautiful place, and we are very, very privileged too, but trust me, it has its own set of problems. Problems are real here, and I see so many people around me burnt out. People have to work a lot to live here, and I'm constantly seeing that burnout despite the fact that we're surrounded by beauty. Along with Sabbathing, taking advantage of the outdoors around you, the activities that you can do in it, and making those into hobbies and exercise routines is key. Is there rock climbing in your area, skiing, pickleball, sports? How much do you prioritize doing that? And that prevents you from needing a vacation from your life. I know it's a heavy life mantra and it's hard to make a reality for some people. For sure, some people just absolutely have to do a vacation occasionally because of certain circumstances, but just saying, it's worth trying to make a goal. So not a whole lot of new crazy things learned this week because I was mostly just traveling and relaxing, but we learned some deeper things. We did some meditating, right? I did spend a bit more time on social media over these couple weeks because we had some free time in the airport. I think I failed to mention we had a canceled flight, an overnight layover, and ended up getting stuck in Dallas. Oh, and they lost our bag. There were a couple moments of frustration, but that's just travel. But yes, I did spend more time on social media. It is daunting once Instagram knows you're pregnant. Holy crap. The feed is wild. Riley's feed, he's cute. He loves learning all the things. He's learning from all these moms that are literally talking to moms, not dads, but he's just soaking it all up. I love it. For me, it's information overload, and I don't know who to trust and who's a reputable source. It might sound hard to believe, but I have the screen time to prove it. I very rarely scroll social media, and I choose to learn and gain info from YouTube and other ways that are more reputable. But I did see some fascinating things, like a mom saying that her birth was $30,000 in the end with 0 interventions, and she was in the US and did not have insurance. That is crazy. Also, I saw some placentas with and without protein. Okay, that's my ancestral explore feed getting into the mix, but it is actually shocking to see a vegan's placenta versus a meat eater's. Placentas are the nutrient and oxygen supply for the baby, so that actually is such an eye-opener. I'm sure there's a way to be vegan in the right way, but I have seen a lot of these comparisons and it's quite convincing. Last 2 updates, I did talk about Ashley Keller before and her workout calendar. I did find a new one, mamastayfit.com, that isn't free but is really cool. But I found something out. Actually, I already knew this. I really just struggle to work out online. It just doesn't happen. It's not top of my priority list. I don't have that desire and that natural want to just go work out. I wish I did. I never have. And I thought, oh, if I'm pregnant and it'll make my labor easier, of course I'll be motivated. Nope. Still hasn't been happening. So I did start paying a little bit for some workout classes, just some extra Pilates classes. And this is coming from cheapo me. I thought I would never pay for a gym, but it's kind of getting to the point of necessity. And it also is helping me stay connected with my friends and get out of the house more. Okay, that's all I got until next week, and time for our special guest. Okay, hi Maddie.
Hey, Rosie.
Thanks for being on again.
Thanks for having
I
me.
think I warned you that this would probably happen. I'd want you on the podcast again.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Maddie is married to my brother Trevor, who was or is closest to me in age, and so we've always been really close, especially through playing video games and Legos. Good thing I was kind of a tomboy, so that's really fun. We see each other multiple times a year. I feel like you need to also introduce your daughters too. Will you do that real quick?
Yeah, so I have 2 daughters. Taya, she's almost 4. She'll be 4 in June. And Elise, who is going to turn 1 year old next week.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And Maddie, I'm not going to say an influencer because I feel like you're more of an inspirer. I feel
Oh,
like
thank you.
influencers are always, yeah, I feel like you're never like trying to sell a bunch of things. You've
Yeah.
gained a following on Instagram through first talking about inner beauty, I feel, right?
Yeah.
Beginning of your journey.
Yeah.
And now babies and mom and
I've pivoted.
parenting. Yeah, totally pivoted. What would you say is for those listening that maybe have not seen your Instagram. Maybe describe it a little, but I actually am curious what you'd answer when I ask what the theme is, kind of, or do you kind of have a goal, or is it just lifestyle with your current Instagram?
Yeah, I'm always trying to figure out what my brand is, really. I say I'm a terrible influencer because I am really inconsistent, but at the same time consistent in that I don't give up. I keep going. I keep, posting and trying
Yeah.
to figure out what my brand is and I just try to serve my audience and get to know who are they? What do they want from me? And so I just think a lot of my content lately is just for moms and specifically inspiring them to just find joy in motherhood and to just really make the most of it, and maybe some educational resources like what we're going to talk about. And
And you're really funny.
thanks.
That always helps. I think you've probably gained a lot of a Christian audience
Oh
because
yeah.
you're pretty vocal about that too.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that's really cool. That's why I think you're more of like an inspirer, which is cool.
Yeah, I keep
Um,
it real.
So you recently wrote a book, and I basically read every word of it. I've skimmed through a few parts because I was like, I will need this absolutely, but I don't need it right now.
Yeah, right. It's totally
Um,
totally irrelevant for you right now.
it's very specific, yeah. So, what kind of inspired? I'm assuming you wrote this because traveling with toddlers and babies was easy at first, and then you kind of figured it out. So, is that what kind of inspired writing a book?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We kind of just, as soon as we had our first daughter, Taya, we just went for it. We just started traveling. I mean, we were always traveling, but yeah, we started traveling, and I've just been learning a ton as we've gone, and just as she's hit different phases of her life, it's influenced different ways that we prepare and just travel. And as you've seen in the book, there's just a lot. There's a lot more than you think, that goes into traveling with kids. And so I've posted about it always on Instagram. I'll post when we're traveling, and I'll get tons of questions, people asking me for advice and questions on, you know, just the various aspects of traveling with babies and traveling with toddlers. And so, yeah, that's kind of what inspired me to write it. At first, I was going to do just a blog post. And as I started compiling my different notes and just things that I wanted to share, I was like, this is a book. This is a
This is
lot.
long.
I gotta just put it in a book because I've just learned a lot, and it's something that I wish that I had when I first started traveling with kids, because I've accumulated this information just from reading other people's blog posts and travel, vlogs and that sort of thing. And so yeah, I'm like, I'll just compile it into one ebook and share that with the world. So
Yeah,
that was my
it's really
inspiration.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really short book, but it's a very extensive travel
Yeah.
guide.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
long blog post, I would say.
I thought of bringing you on next because I so far in pregnancy have been on a more gnarly trip where I was sick and exhausted, and but that was first trimester, so duh.
Yeah.
And then I said I would never want to travel pregnant again. Um, but then I went on another trip because of some weddings, and it was so fun and totally fine.
Mm.
So then I it sent me down a spiral of thinking, should we do a baby moon? I've
Mm.
seen it be like hard and exhausting, but also fun. So I wanted to know, I know you went on a baby moon, what your take is on that. And if you, well, let me just separate and first ask, how is your baby moon and how are you feeling during it?
It's funny. Trev and I were just reminiscing on the baby moon. Because yeah, we did a baby moon before we had Taya, so no children. I was 5 months pregnant when we went to Miami, and it was just a 5 day trip. We we regretted booking such a short trip. We wished that it had been longer because it really felt like 3 days because our flights were kind of, the
Yeah.
timing was we got in late at night, we left early in the morning, and so we were like, should have been longer. But we had so much fun. I think that was the sweet spot for me. 5 months, I was in that second trimester, I was feeling really good, not super nauseous anymore, but also not like huge. Because once I get to the end of pregnancy, I don't feel good. I'm just a whale, and I don't want to be,
Yeah.
I don't want to be traveling and that sort of thing. Plus, you can't travel up until you get to a certain point, but that's, what, 4 weeks before you give birth or something, or
I
two
think so.
weeks. Maybe it's 2 weeks out.
I think it's two. Yeah, a little bit
two
less, but yeah.
weeks, two
Fine.
weeks before your due date. So, but we loved it. Yeah, it was super fun, and I do feel like it was the timing was the sweet spot that I went at 5 months and was still able to. I mean, I can remember like we had an Airbnb in a like high rise building in Miami, and we walked to the grocery store. And I was like, okay, this is a lot. Like I could feel the like cramps in my stomach. What's that called? The I forget what it's called.
I don't know. I don't know
It's
there's a
not
name for
Braxton
it.
Hicks. No, there's like
Oh yeah,
ligament,
Jackson
like
Hip.
ligament pain.
Okay.
So yeah, if you like walk a ton, once your belly gets really big, you'll start to feel that ligament pain. So
Mm.
yeah, I remember having to take a break as we were walking to the store because I was like, "Ooh, my stomach! It's yeah, pulling on those ligaments." But we had fun. We just spent our time most of the time on the beach and eating food, and it was a really sweet time to spend just with Trev, me and Trev. Like our
Hmm.
final days, just the two of us.
Hmm.
So I do recommend. I think it's special to do a baby moon before
For
you have
sure.
your kids. Yeah,
And
that's
how
my
are you
opinion.
feeling emotionally? You kind of touched on physically, but my
Oh,
hormones are pretty unpredictable. So,
yeah, emotionally, I felt okay. I think again it was such a sweet spot in my pregnancy where I was just
yeah.
so like excited and just there was so much anticipation and excitement, and I just was like I don't know, it was just that pregnancy with Tay was just so beautiful and precious. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, just this new baby is coming. And I remember on our last day there, we were just kind of staring at, we were like on the beach, just staring off into the sunset. And I remembered feeling a little bit of like, this is like the next time we're at the beach, we're gonna be parents and we're gonna have kids with it or a kid with us, and everything's gonna be so different. And it was a little bit of that like I didn't know, I couldn't fathom yet the joy that was gonna come with a baby, and so all I could think was I'm kind of sad. It's like the end of an era, of just me and Trev. And so I do remember that moment very vividly. For some reason, that just really stuck in my head. I kind of took like a mental picture. Do you take
Mhm.
mental pictures sometimes where you're like, I just want to
Totally.
remember this?
Hmm.
And that I just remembered it because I just made a point to to remember that moment, and it was special, but it was also I didn't know what joy awaited me later on
Yeah.
when I had my baby. So
Yeah. A little bittersweet.
emotionally I think it was special. Yeah. It wasn't too much. It wasn't a roller coaster for me, but everyone's
Yeah.
different. Everyone's different.
True. Sounds like all good things though. And would you say, like, did it add any stress to your pregnancy or is it mostly just de-stressing?
I think it was de-stressing. Yeah. I don't think it added stress, but we also love traveling, and I think
True.
because you love
Your pros.
traveling and I mean, you've done it so much, I think you would enjoy it as well. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I'm it's sounding like the sweet spot too is important. The second trimester,
Yeah.
make sure you're feeling good and
Yeah. Once
just
you're still
not
feeling
first.
good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then and the third, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets
Hmm.
pretty rough at the end there. I mean,
Yeah.
not
Towards
for
the end.
everyone. Janie, I feel like, our sister Janie, she just kills it. Like the whole
She can just do
pregnancy, she's
anything.
just going for it and she doesn't complain. And
Yeah.
I'm
It's
waddling around like a whale. I'm like, I can't do this.
I'm already feeling like a whale, so I already am not going to be like Janie.
Uh,
So now that you've done both,
Yeah.
And remind me how early you traveled with a newborn.
So with Taya, I think we traveled the first time when she was 5 months old. With
Okay.
Elise, our latest baby, we just traveled. The earliest with her was actually the beach house, which was less than 3 months old, I think. And then we
Yeah.
went to the Bahamas with her when she was 3 months.
Okay.
So that's the
Oh, wow.
youngest we've ever traveled with is a three
International.
month old. We went international with our 3 month old, yeah.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
now that you traveled with a newborn 3 times and you did baby moon, if somebody had the time and budget for only one or the other, what would you recommend?
Yeah, that's I have so many different ways I can answer this because it kind of depends on the person, what they're looking for. I would say they're different experiences. So if you want to have um just that really special one-on-one time, you and your spouse, then you're going to want to just go for the baby moon before you have your kid because the kid being there does change a lot. Um
Yeah.
I think that the sooner you do travel after you have your baby, you can still have I mean, you can always have special like connection one-on-one time with, your husband. But just the older your kid gets, the more they become kind of the center of the
The
attention and
center
it's
of
like
the
there's a
trip.
lot you have to do. But babies really the younger they are kind of just couch potatoes. They're kind of blobs. They just kind of sit there and so you can yeah, but it just depends on what you're looking for, I think. It was really special to have those final days me and Trev just, enjoying each other and our time together and yeah, once you have your baby, you can still have that, but it's going to look different.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I'm almost in that category of we just don't have a ton of time. And I got inspired by this mom I was talking to who has four and she homeschools and she's just fired up about traveling with your kids and they learn so much on the trips they go to. And she
Mm.
always makes it an educational experience. And so it made me think, oh, I'm just gonna wait till after and save that time. But um, it made me want to ask you, how do you feel like you can, like, do you feel like traveling with your kids is valuable to them and that it's educational to them, or is it like a bonding experience with your kids, like something you'd really recommend? And when does that kind of start? Do you think Taya is already like gleaning so much from trips?
I think as
Yeah.
they get older, yeah, there's absolutely value to I mean, when we went out to your wedding, Taya was almost 2 years old, and that was such a
Wow.
special experience for her, and she talked about it for forever. Um, and yeah, it's just fun to get out of your element and to be in nature. I mean, we went on beautiful hikes, and she played in the sand at the beach and spent time with family. And yeah, I mean, there's so much good that comes from traveling, even as young as 9 months, 2 years. At this point, Taya's 3 years old and remembers more from trips. And yeah, they I think certainly there's value to it at any age, really. But especially as they
Yeah.
grow older, they're going to learn more. You can make it more educational. I did that a lot growing up. Every time we traveled, my mom would make it into, because I was homeschooled too, she would make it into a field trip kind of thing, and we would
Mhm.
go to a museum or something to learn. And so, yeah, I think it's always worth it, really, to travel if you can. It's a privilege, um, but yeah,
I'm glad you brought up our wedding because, yeah, if she was only two, I
yeah,
mean, in my memory, she's still like that's when she really started remembering me and Riley. I feel like our
Yeah,
name, just totally like being excited and talking about us. And she was so much fun. So, and that's only 2 years old. So yeah,
I
that's a
know.
good.
Yeah, she was only she actually turned 2 right after we got back from that trip. And
Mm.
yeah, we were surprised on that trip how much she was aware of what was going on and talking about how we were going to your wedding and we're like,
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
so cute, so
That's
worth it.
so yeah. Another note I was gonna make just on that question you had about traveling baby moon versus traveling
Yeah,
right after you have the baby. Just some things I thought about were kind of your abilities and like when we because we actually traveled we went to Mexico with Taya when she was 10 months old. And that was super fun because I wasn't pregnant. I was able to eat and drink whatever I wanted without the
mhm.
fear of getting sick or and like potentially I know you talked earlier about getting food poisoning and being so scared for your baby. That's what I
Yes.
get nervous about when I'm traveling pregnant. Is like I don't want to eat something whatever. So it's nice to not have that fear. And also when you're traveling, sometimes you want to like do excursions and activities, jet skiing, zip lining, you know, snowboarding, whatever, you know, things that you probably don't want to do pregnant, but you could do that when you're not pregnant. And that's so when we went to Mexico, we were able to have a little more fun. We had to be creative. We had to sometimes take turns because we'd stay with the baby. One of us would stay with the baby, the other one would go zip line or whatever. And it's a little different, but we could have more fun that way because I wasn't pregnant, if that makes sense,
Yeah,
you know?
that's actually a good point. There could almost be less limitations
Yeah,
after baby comes.
exactly.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
depending on the trip. Yeah,
Mhm. And I've been learning that that newborn stage is so different than once your baby starts running around. So
yeah,
I was thinking, what if I just waited till newborn stage? And because more context, Riley and I wanted to go to Bali this year and didn't know we would get pregnant this quick. And so we're like, do we still go? Do we go after? And my limitation, I would not be able to surf very well in Bali with my
yeah.
big belly. So with a newborn, realistically, is that relaxing? Like, is it almost more relaxing than being at home to go on a little, you went to the Bahamas with your newborn, or was it a
Yeah.
little bit more stressful than being at home?
I've seen some people say like, well, I can change dirty diapers and get no sleep at home, or I can do it in Italy. So why not do it in Italy? You know,
Right?
and
That's what my mind is
yeah,
going to.
yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with that. I think depending on when you go, a lot of people say 3 months postpartum is when they finally feel like they've gotten in a groove and kind of know what they're doing and can handle having a newborn. And so I think, yeah, 3 months is a great time postpartum. I don't know, earlier than that, maybe would venture out too, but I think 3 months to 6 months is a really nice time to travel if you're wanting to, yeah, do more activities and stuff and not be chasing around a child. Because once they're crawling and getting more mobile, yeah, you definitely have to just watch them a bit closer. And otherwise, you know, when they're so young, you kind of just set them on a towel and make sure
Yeah.
they have shade and someone watching them. Don't leave them on the beach by themselves, but you know, just you guys can take turns surfing. And yeah, I'm a big fan. I think that just personally, I think traveling with newborns is just as nice as being at home with them or better,
Yeah.
especially if you have a
Okay.
supportive husband there with you, as opposed to being home alone with the baby. You know, it's more fun to be tag teaming it on a trip, um, than at home.
That's a
So
good point. It would force Riley to actually
yep.
take some time off work because he has a hard time with that. I was talking to somebody who's having twins,
Ooh,
and yeah, wild. And I'm actually so jealous. I think that's so cool.
yeah.
But she has an annual family trip 2.5, or maybe she said 3 months after she's due, and that's her big debate right now is booking it or not. And
Mm.
she's never been to the trip, and kind of sounds like our annual trips, but it would be the same month of me giving birth if we went to ours in California. So I think we're
Whoa.
gonna be missing out on that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
because our annual family trip is August, and
Yeah.
so for the first time in my entire life, I'm gonna be missing out on that one. But
Really. Ugh.
yeah, if we were Janie, then she would probably do it. But I don't think we're gonna
Yeah,
fly
she'd
with
give
her.
birth in the beach house if she could.
Yeah, she would. She would.
She's such
But
a champ. She's
I
amazing.
think we're gonna pass. But for my friend having twins, I thought, it's good. You kind of put a number on it. 3 months is like a good sweet spot.
It's what a lot of people recommend, and I think that was my experience too, was around 3 months. It's just funny, the newborn stage is so different for different people because, and especially, as a first time mom, it's jarring at first. It's like, oh my gosh, it changes your world, it rocks your world. But then as your kid grows up, you're like, man, that newborn stage is starting to look pretty nice because it just gets a little bit harder and harder.
So
Um,
I've heard.
but God starts you off with the newborn, and for a reason. It's nice that He
Mhm.
doesn't start you off with a 2-year-old, and you have time to figure it out a little bit before they get to that point.
Okay, so little last question, little book spoiler alert. I would love for you, since I was kind of just giving earlier in this episode tips on staying healthy nutritionally on your trip. And you talked about that a little bit too. So, what are some of your best tips on eating healthy while traveling, especially in the airport, but during the trip too, with
Yeah.
little ones?
Yeah. You probably saw in my book, I'm very passionate about the nutritional aspect of traveling with babies and toddlers. I think it is so overlooked by other moms. We just and by myself originally until I learned, okay, this is actually has a huge impact on how the trip is going to go and how your kids are going to do traveling. And so yeah, we put a lot of thought now into what are we eating? And so if I'm, whether it's plane or road travel, that's typically the ways that we travel. I try to pack, I mean, with kids, obviously you want to bring a lot of snacks, especially with older kids. If you're traveling with a baby, it's going to be milk. But
Yeah.
yeah, once they get a little older and they're eating food, I try to really focus on high protein, high fat, like no sugar other than if it's coming from, fruits or, paired with some fiber or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, because it's just, yeah, once they get a little bit of that sugar, then it's a glucose spike and then it drops and then they're cranky and you've lost all control. And it's so easy when traveling to say, well, I'll give you a sucker if you like sit in your seat
Yeah.
really still, or I'll give you this if you, and it's just such a slippery slope. And I've done that. I mean, I've been there where I've, rationed out the suckers throughout the day and I've just regretted it by the end of the day. And so now I've learned, and I think that a big part of this is starting it before the trip. If you have a toddler who is used to eating a certain amount of sweets or sugar or snacks that are not just filling or protein filled or fatty, you got to start it a few weeks before the trip. But or just make that your lifestyle. But at
Yeah.
least before the trip, I'm just so passionate about this, making sure that your kid is just eating nutritionally. And then for like road trips, I pack a freezer bag with protein balls. I'll make protein balls at home, um cheese sticks, fruits. It's a little trickier when you're not in the back seat with them and they're eating in their car seat. I'm super
Mhm.
paranoid about that. I don't want them choking without me
Oh,
watching them.
okay.
So we
Mhm.
try to be careful. In my ebook, I shared different foods that we pack for road trips that are a little bit safer for car seats, um, while not being just air puffs of air. There's plenty of
Yeah.
snacks out there that you can buy for your kid that's
They're puffs.
literally just air, and it's like, well, that's not really doing much for them. But if you're starting a travel day with eggs and butter, put a lot of butter in those eggs and maybe a side of a few grapes, on some sourdough toast. That's just such a great way to get your kid in a good place before you travel, where they're not gonna have these crazy spikes of energy and then drops, and then you're dealing with a tantrum in the airport. And just people don't think about that. Set them up for success. I don't want to be traveling and then reprimanding them for being so misbehaved when it's like, I'm the one that was feeding them sugary cereal for breakfast, or oatmeal is another one that we don't realize how horrible it really is. Like, oh, oatmeal.
I
Yeah.
miss it.
You miss it?
Yeah, I cut it out. I'm like, it's so good though. But
It's so good, and it's definitely better if you can do it from scratch. Oatmeal, not from scratch, but
still cut.
organic oats with
Yeah.
butter. I would say someone actually recently on Instagram shared with me that they make their oatmeal with egg yolks. They'll like put some egg yolks in it and make it like a custardy thing, and then it adds some protein and helps your body digest it better.
Oh
So I was
wow.
like, that's really smart, and I tried it and it tasted so good.
I'll have
And
to.
I didn't, but I always just I feel horrible after I eat oatmeal, and so I try to stay away from
Yeah, just
it.
like that organic steel cut, less processed. I learned even just for myself, I have a better trip if I stick to my normal eating habits and
I
not compromise.
know, me too.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's so hard, and I think that there's a definitely a place for that when you're traveling to indulge and,
Yeah.
and have fun in that way.
Well, for those listening, read the rest of the book if you
Yeah, there's a lot of good
relate
tips in there.
and want to start traveling with the kiddos. But thanks for joining, and
Thank you for
I
having me.
can't wait to join the mom club with you so soon.
Yes, I'm so excited for you, Rosie.